It was a cold, rainy evening when Emma, a kind-hearted animal rescuer, decided to take a different route home. She had spent the entire day at the shelter, nursing abandoned animals back to health, and was exhausted. But something compelled her to turn down an unfamiliar, desolate road. As she drove slowly, her headlights illuminated the form of a dog lying on the side of the road, drenched and unmoving. Emma's heart sank. She immediately pulled over and ran to the dog. It was a pit bull, its ribs showing through its matted fur, covered in cuts and bruises. The dog's eyes were barely open, but when Emma reached out her hand, he let out a faint whimper. It was as if he had been waiting for someone to find him, to save him. Without hesitation, Emma wrapped the dog in a blanket she kept in her car and gently placed him on the back seat. She could feel the frailty of his body and the tremors running through him. "It's okay, buddy. You're safe now," she whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. Emma drove straight to the nearest animal hospital. The vet examined the dog and shook his head grimly. "He's severely malnourished and has suffered prolonged abuse. His body's weak, but there's still a chance if we act quickly." Emma nodded, determined to do whatever it took to save him. She decided to name him Max, a name that symbolized strength and resilience. For weeks, Emma visited Max every day at the hospital. She would sit by his side, talk to him, and gently stroke his head. Slowly but surely, Max began to recover. His wounds healed, and his once dull eyes started to shine again. But what stood out most was his spirit. Despite everything he had been through, Max was gentle and loving, as if he understood that Emma was his savior. One day, as Emma was leaving the hospital, she overheard two workers talking. "That dog came from the old Miller property. You know, the one where those underground fights used to happen." Emma froze. Her heart ached at the thought of Max being forced into such a cruel life. She knew she couldn't just stop at saving him. She needed to ensure no other animals suffered the same fate. Emma contacted the local authorities and shared what she had learned. She described Max's condition and the suspicion that he had been used in illegal dogfights. The officers were reluctant at first, dismissing it as a rumor. But Emma's persistence paid off. She managed to convince them to investigate the Miller property. A week later, Emma received a call from the police. They had raided the property and found evidence of a horrific dogfighting ring. Dozens of dogs were rescued that day, all in varying states of neglect and abuse. The perpetrators were arrested, and the operation was shut down for good. Emma felt a surge of relief and pride. Max's suffering had not been in vain. Back at the shelter, Max had become somewhat of a hero. His story inspired donations and adoptions, and Emma made sure every visitor knew about his incredible journey. Max himself had transformed into a symbol of hope. His fur was now shiny, his body strong, and his eyes full of life. He had even started playing with toys and wagging his tail whenever Emma walked into the room. A family visited the shelter, looking to adopt a dog. They were kind and gentle, with two young children who instantly fell in love with Max. Emma watched as Max interacted with the family, his tail wagging non-stop. It was as if he knew he had found his forever home.